Okay, there we go.
All
Because
right.
did you see we went live and we didn't put ourselves in
Yeah,
the stream?
it's all good.
Okay.
All right, we're live now.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live show for. Can you pull up the book because I don't have a cover? To She Is a Haunting. I am super excited to talk about this book. And yeah, what would you just? I feel like a summary of it is it follows a Vietnamese girl as she's visiting her dad. And
Mhm.
I didn't say her mom and dad aren't separated, they just don't live with each other, right?
So it's they're not divorced, they're not separated. You're right. They live in two separate countries, and they are estranged. Would be the word.
Okay, yeah. So she's visiting her dad because it's like a pre like what would you say arrangement? It was an arrangement, it was a deal.
It was a
so she has
deal.
to stay with her dad for the summer in order to, get the tuition that she needs for college. And then while she's there, they discover something. It was really interesting. So
Yes, it was.
okay, let's jump into it. Here, let me pull up the questions.
Oh, I can do that.
But first impressions. What did you think of?
So first impressions for me were I really liked it. It's been a really long time since I've read a horror book before. So I think the last one I read was maybe
Plain Bad Heron.
Yes, Plain Bad Heroines. Oh, I was thinking even farther back than that. And yeah, it was good just to kind of experience a pretty freaky and really disturbing horror book. I was really surprised at how far it got at some points, but I really enjoyed it. It also ties to kind of like East Asian or Southeast Asian, like it's not exactly my culture, but there are some similarities with, generational trauma and overbearing parents who don't know how to handle certain situations. And it's really, really good to read about and good to see that it's being represented.
Yeah, and the book takes place in Vietnam, but I believe they're from like Pennsylvania or
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, yeah, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And this is YA horror. Did it feel like YA to you? I felt like it was like borderline YA. Honestly, I thought the like scenes were pretty raunchy where they were like talking about romance and stuff.
This is YA.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
I think this is this is YA.
I felt like it was more than that.
No, I think this is YA. I'm pretty sure this is YA.
It definitely wasn't explicit, but it was definitely getting close in terms of the
it was
side.
Yeah, I thought the romance was definitely like raunchy in terms of like nothing happened, but I think like the way they talked about stuff, it seemed, and they were 17 years old, and I'm like, damn, this is really mature for 17, which I kind of like to see because it wasn't cheesy. But I do feel like, yeah, I was a little surprised that it was YA, and especially because of how graphic it was. I think it was definitely more graphic on the bugs aspect.
Yes.
More so than Plain Bad Heroines, I think, for me.
Yeah, so bugs. I forgot there was that connection with Plain Bad Heroines. Plain Bad Heroines in this one, I would say, like, because of how invasive the writing is, like everything kind of just creates this eerie, like more body horror kind of like fear rather than Plain Bad Heroines, which was just creepy,
Yeah, this one definitely has a lot of body horror. That's definitely a content warning that I would put on here. And I think with the bugs too, yeah, there was just so much of that. Yeah. I think for me, first impressions, because this was it was pitched as inspired by Mexican Gothic or like reminds people of Mexican Gothic. I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. Mexican Gothic isn't as big on the bugs. It's not that much body horror. But it is it's haunted house, and it's ghosts and it's hauntings. So, and it was also a little bit of like parasitic.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me earlier.
That one is so much more like kind of like a fungi parasitic thing. And I don't know, I quite liked Mexican Gothic a little bit more. It's Mexican Gothic was a little more, I think in general, like the writing style and just like the way it was told is definitely more like nuanced, like the issues. But I feel like both of them still touched on many different things. I really wanted you to read Mexican Gothic.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say. Is I haven't read Mexican Gothic, so this is kind of like my standard right now for that. Last thing was Plain Bad Heroines, and I would say like there was some fungus mentionings on it, but I don't think the main focus was this kind of like invasive parasitism.
Yeah.
And I remember after we finished reading it, you mentioned the game Resident Evil 7 and watching Let's Play and how that kind of thing with the fungi taking over. And I was like, there's it's an interesting kind of comparison that I
Yeah.
wanted to see more of, I guess.
Well, I guess that one was strictly like science based, where this one is, I think it's all a metaphor. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, it's like kind of all a metaphor
Mhm.
for everything, which
Definitely
is why
supernatural.
it's very, I think it's compared to Mexican Gothic, because this whole idea of parasitic and like hauntings and like
Mhm.
taking over your body, like that is the kind of like thesis of Mexican Gothic, which is why it was so well known. I think that's why this book is also, you know, kind of getting that. But I like how it was told through like a different perspective of like this
Yes.
Vietnamese. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was very interesting. Also, did you notice that she's wearing the like traditional?
Yes, I did
didn't know
notice that on the cover for it, and also going off of like the way that Vietnam and where they were was described,
Mhm.
it just felt really kind of like
Like,
stifling and
suffocating.
like the
Yeah, it
heat,
was-
the never-ending heat, the
I
sweat,
know
and
it was hard to read.
yeah, and it's just like there's this, it's like you can feel the kind of pressure that is on our main character Jade from all aspects, like from the house,
Yeah.
from the environment, from her family, like everything just kind of
Mhm.
weighing down on her, and then
Yeah.
us as a reader.
I know it was a lot of times. Like that's what was it's very like it doesn't feel like YA. It definitely feels like new adult or
Yeah.
like a older generation. But
Mhm.
okay, let's get into the
Sure.
questions.
So the
Yeah,
first
I'm sad
question-
because I don't have a finished. Well, technically that's my finished copy, but
Mhm.
mine just
An
has
arc.
the like it's an
It is
arc.
an
I
arc,
got
right?
yeah.
So the first question is, which character do you relate to or empathize with, and why? And I can go first with this one. I really kind of relate to the main character because actually, no, I'm going to retract my statement. I relate to her sister, Lily, because Lily is her younger sister, and I'm the youngest in my family. And kind of the way that Lily tries to bridge gaps, tries to kind of has that kind of naivety and hoping that things like people like the rest of the family will come back together and like be how it was before, like a happy family, and then also just trying to like put her own feelings down and try and be supportive to the people around her, and then also the rest of the family coddling her and trying to protect her from what's happening. That was kind of relatable because of things that have happened in my past. So that's definitely who I relate to the most, I would say, in the story.
Yeah, I think I would relate most. I am obviously the main character,
Mhm.
but on for very specific things. Because first of all, I'm an oldest sister, so I know what it's like. But you know what really like was made me laugh so much was when they started pranking Lily. But it was like all in the goodness of the heart in order to like protect her from a bigger thing, and that's like such an older sister thing for me to be like, I would hurt my sister like to like hurt her the least in order to save her for the most from the most pain.
Mhm.
So that kind of thing reminded me of myself, where I was like, oh yeah, like I would totally do something like this, like scare her or traumatize, like put her through that to save her from a greater evil.
Mhm.
So I could relate to a lot what she thought, and she in the way she like interacts with her parents. The family relationship was very similar to
Mhm.
the relationship I kind of have with like my parents, where it's like she's not afraid to like point out shit, and she's just like stick it to you, and if he doesn't listen and if he's not into that, then but yeah, I felt it was really interesting for me to like read about that relationship, where I was like, okay, yeah, this is me. That was specifically the sister part, because I was like, I would prank my sister.
That's
or
super
brother.
interesting because I would never. if I was in that situation, I would never do that to like.
But even if
sibling. But that's also because I am the younger sibling, and
Yeah.
probably people did that to me. Or
Yeah, well, I feel like I relate to her so much because I feel like she feels like she can protect all of them, and she feels like she knows everything that's going on.
Very
And for me, I'm that person who's like the last person to sleep in the entire house to make sure everyone in my family is safe, and then I sleep. And she's so like that.
She's
That it's
very
like
much
not
like
even. And
you.
she's the oldest of two more, so it's literally like me, like sister and then a brother as well.
Yeah, so that I think it's also just really funny how like I relate to the younger sibling because I'm younger, and you're relate to the older sibling because you're older.
I guess I can relate to Lily too. I can relate to Lily where she doesn't want to be like babied anymore. Like in the end, you can really see her kind of take a stand and be like, and her getting mad at her sister because she kept things from her and was babied. And I do sort of feel like that for my parents, but I do feel like I do feel like there is the definite difference between Lily and Jade, because like Lily like wants to be coddled. Like,
Yes, and also I think like Lily is willing to forgive and forget all the things that have happened. Like she's not angry at her dad for leaving.
Yeah.
She's not angry at, she is angry at Jade for a little bit there, but she's like forgives her and like understands that she does something for a reason. She's very like, I want us to be together, and I'm going to forgive it and forget everything that happens.
Yeah, she's kind of like, I don't know. That's why I didn't like it as much. But yeah, she reminds me of my sister.
Yeah.
My sister, who's always like, stop fighting with like the parents. Like just everyone be nice. Be calm. So
yeah.
I definitely didn't relate to her, but I could definitely empathize. And I don't know. I kind of empathize a little, or sympathize with the dad. I just feel like he was so stuck. Like at the end, I just felt so bad for him. Like, come on, like, don't you just feel bad for him, because he was basically stuck. Like he had no free will, basically, since we had met him, because he was working on that house, and we understood that he was slowly, like, his mind was being taken over.
I think that he probably was already kind of pretty much taken over since the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
He was in straight denial.
I know, so that's so sad. Like, he literally had no free will, and he couldn't like spend, I don't know, because in general it makes you think, because what was the story really talking about? Because now that he was kind of taken over, it kind of takes away all the like
bad things that happen.
Well, not really, because I was gonna say, like, I thought this book was about like them crafting their relationship back to each other, like Jade and her dad. But then when you find out he was taken over by the entity, you're just like, okay, he was not in control of any of his actions. Yeah.
That's a really interesting take. I did not think about that.
Well, that's what makes me think, because I don't know. I thought that he wants to be back in the family. I thought he like genuinely cared. The reason why he offered to pay Jade was because he just wanted to get her out there. But then it makes you think of like, at what point was he stopping this charade, like trying to be a better father, because he was taken over. It was like,
that's a really, really interesting take, because
conspiracy theories in this book.
Well, yeah, because I never thought about the actions. I always consider him and the house as one, and I never considered his motivations afterwards, because like there's so many different layers of him doing like bad things, but then you think into the house, and it's just like, how much is him and how much is the house. But like him leaving the family, I think, is unforgivable. Remember that?
Yeah, no, of course.
And that's why kind of it blurs the lines of it being like can I empathize with this character really, when that's such a horrible thing to do to a family, is to leave, right?
Yeah, and I'm not saying like no, like I honestly don't think it was explained that much, because like the reason for leaving was like he wanted to build a house.
Well, no, his mom died.
Oh, I know. No, but it wasn't really like, oh, so yeah, I forgot.
You forgot that. I knew you forgot. I knew you forgot.
Okay,
he left because
I know his mom died, but yes, but then it wasn't really explained. And then he asked Jade, and then Jade said,
yeah. So the reason that he wanted to leave was because he wanted to bury her body.
Yeah.
And he could not afford to pay for everybody else, so he was the only one that went back.
But then why didn't he come back after he had buried the body?
Shame. I don't know.
Yeah. See, it's not explained. So
okay,
because it wasn't explained.
Yeah.
Hello. Because it wasn't explained, it made me feel like it was like, what are the stakes? Because the stakes are like, was there a big falling out between the family that happened? Because it wasn't really explained in the end, when like he did ask Jade, like, should he leave? And I guess he didn't get the affirmations that he wanted, so he left. Like she said, like, go, and
she said go because like she thought that's what he wanted when he
I know, but I'm like, so he didn't get the affirmation he wanted, so like he left. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't explained that well. But okay, let's move on to the second.
Let's go to the second question.
Yeah,
that's a really good take.
I know. That's what I was thinking of the last thing. I was like, so it's like those stories where they're like, all of this happened, but it was all just a dream.
That's like weird trope. Yeah,
but you know what I'm saying, right? Okay, that's
just, but that take, I never delved deep into the thought of the dad's actions, because I was just thinking, oh, he's evil house, that's why when he died at the end, it was like kind of sympathetic, but not really.
Yeah.
All right, next question is, what theme stood out to you? There's a lot.
Yeah, what themes stood out to me? I mean, I think a big theme is that we talked about is a huge part of this is like intergenerational trauma.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of played out like not only within this, no, it did specifically play out within the family because of the grandma, but also the great great grandma, but like also the other family that moved in, the other people that moved in, and who got she got married.
Well, that's more on the other side of which is the racism. And
Well, yeah, but like it was intergenerational trauma on all different like different families,
yeah.
like different. It was kind of like a, I don't know what you call that, like kind of ancestry or like just like cultural, like I don't know.
That's yeah. I think it's like cultural trauma because it's like they both families had, you know, were experiencing racism or were dealing with racism. You know, Marion and then Cam. There's
I'm trying not to chew because I don't want to.
Yeah, that's okay.
ASMR.
Yeah. And then the great great grandmother being, you know, a servant, and the rest of the family being a servant in the house and treated like crap. You know, so I think it's just the underlying theme for both of them in that trauma is racism, right? And then leaving it trickle down through the generations to where we have Jade and Lily here. And then we get into kind of like expatriate feelings where they're born in the US, but they're considered, you know, they're not exactly Vietnamese and they're not exactly American.
What did you call it? Expatriate?
That's what trauma? I was called. I was called an expat when I was in China because.
What would I call it? I call it a sense of belonging. Just because like I feel like they didn't feel like they belonged in. I wish they had talked a little bit more about their life in like Philadelphia.
I don't think they had time to think about that.
I know, but like I kind of wanted to know, like, did they feel like they belonged in Philadelphia, like compared to Vietnam? Because like going to Vietnam, she like it was very consistently like brought up that she couldn't speak the language well. Yeah, and she couldn't really understand, and she always felt guilty when she would have to trust like Florence with translating things.
I mean, when you like, because like if I were to go back to China and then I speak Chinese relatively okay, but then when I go back there, I'm reminded of my weaknesses in language, right? So then I don't feel as home as when I don't feel like completely at home in China because of that. And then when I come over here, when I live in the US, I don't feel particularly at home because I don't like, it's not really my culture. And I think that's what she's going through. She's lived in the US for that long, so she's had this kind of pressure, kind of like where you were going through, where you wanted to be American. You didn't want to learn the language and you just wanted to be an American, right?
Oh, yeah.
And now she's coming back to Vietnam and she's realizing that she's lost connections to that other side. Right?
See, that's a really interesting one. Did they clarify, were they born in Vietnam?
They were born in no, they were born in the U.S.
Yeah, they were born in the U.S.
Because the mom and the dad, they escaped by boat to the U.S. and they're born there.
Oh, okay. See, that's what I'm so interested in. I think when it comes to intergenerational trauma, like place of birth is huge because yes, I grew up in the U.S. Oh, I was born in the U.S., grew up in the U.S., always wanted to be more American than Chinese. But I don't know when that switched. I don't think that's ever switched for me yet. Maybe it'll
started recently.
No, that's different. I'm appreciating my culture and I'm proud of it. I'm not feeling like I'm not enough of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because they went to Vietnam.
That's what I mean. So it's like when you return.
Placehood, and like when you're physically in that space, you feel like that. But yeah, that's a really interesting take because I guess I don't feel it yet. So if I were to go to Taiwan or the Philippines,
definitely that feeling of like you are a part of you is this, but you're not completely. That feeling really shows when you go back to where you were from before.
I mean, but you growing up in China, but then coming here, but you felt that here.
I'm a weird amalgamation of stuff. Like when I was over there, I was always considered the foreigner because I didn't look fully Chinese.
Oh, over there
I was,
but here you're also considered the foreigner.
Yeah, so I'm considered. That's why I'm a foreigner everywhere because my Chinese wasn't. It was just barely there to be completely like
it's pretty good.
Yeah, but I could like with my friends back at home, I could feel like discrepancies in my Chinese. Like there's some things that I didn't understand and they could pick up on it. And then when I come over here, I feel like this is not my culture. Like I don't feel.
Yeah, that's a good one. I liked the themes of like discovering yourself, not only I think culturally, but with our main character because she's bisexual.
That was another big theme too.
And she has anxiety.
She does have anxiety.
I was actually I didn't know that. I came into this book and I hadn't heard people talking about the mental health representation, but the anxiety representation was, I wanted more, obviously.
Of course.
But because I feel like, but I really liked the things, I had earmarked specific things. But yeah, the way she talked about anxiety, like she like asked questions on the page, like she was
like just questioning and like worrying over random things,
Yeah, and I think because we see the story through her eyes as someone who's very anxious, it heightened the creepiness and the like just everything. And I like the way her brain thinks. God, it's so like evident that she has like some type of anxiety, and it was so good. But yeah, we were talking about the themes.
The bisexual representation was also really cool because it's just like and also the more into the general trauma with that lack of acceptance from her dad before when remember the diary scene.
Oh yeah,
where he broke into her diary and then told her.
Well, I wouldn't say lack of acceptance.
That was only later when it wasn't his actions anymore.
Oh, right? See, yeah, I can't talk about the dad. The dad's too confused.
It's very complicated. I
kind of it's like, but the mom, the lack of acceptance, I think there with like her not wanting to like, it's the whole thing of like not burdening your parents. Like she doesn't want to burden her mom with like worries or anything, so she doesn't tell her, or she just projects like what she thinks that she's gonna say. So yeah, that was another interesting point. That's
another theme, is that as in the later part of the book when she actually called her mom and basically trauma dumped and told her everything.
I know
her mom was really accepting, and then it was her kind of getting over that that initial fear of lack of acceptance and also burden. That was another strong point too.
Yeah. Okay, this is unrelated, but like, oh my God, didn't you reach a certain point where it is, I don't know, it wasn't funny, but it was just like at some point Jade just like gave up on her dad. Like she was just like, whatever. I know, she was literally like, just gotta get my sister out of here. And then when her mom came, she was like, Mom, what the fuck?
Why are you here?
Get out. And then the dad, she's like, literally, she was like,
just get away. Don't remember the part where she was like, how's your eye worm? And he was like, "Oh, it's fine," because she was like, "You are gone. I'm not going to deal with you. You're a lost cause."
I know that kind of took me out of the story a little bit because I was like, "So are we as a reader also accepting that he's a lost cause?" That's why I think in the end it just it didn't hit as much as it was supposed to, maybe as sad. I really didn't feel that much sympathy. I wasn't like, I thought I was gonna cry because when that shit happens, like I think readers were kind of supposed to cry, but because of that moment where it took us out, where Jade was literally like, "Okay, so you're like you're gone. So what was the point of him? Even."
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't feel much sympathy at the end for the dad because just like with how much was happening, it's just horrible. Like
maybe in the end, he for a snap second, that's why he like ran back to the house. He gained consciousness again.
Maybe
like he beat the control of the like whatever, and like
I mean when he was on fire, I feel like he went back into the house because he wanted to save the house. It wasn't like,
well, he wouldn't do that because the house told him to leave. No, the house told him to leave. The house was like, get out. Yeah, no, I think he like snapped back into consciousness and kind of was like, okay, in order to save my family, I'll go. So like we kind of have sympathy. I know it's like hive mind. I don't know.
But it's also like the other part is that as the story is progressing, we realize the parasites are all inside all three of them. And then when Florence got back into the house, remember the sister was like holding her mouth open, and the whole family was like going to force like feed Florence stuff too until the mom came in. This was like in the really big jump at the end.
So they are kind of infected a little. See,
they're all infected.
I know, it's literally like Resident Evil.
Yeah,
they were all infected.
That was a really scary scene. I really didn't like that scene because like Florence, who has nothing to do with the story, came back for Jade, and then they all just like grabbed her and like the house tied her up. Cam tied her up, and then when Florence was asking for help, the rest of the family came, and then Lily, sweet Lily, was forcing her mouth open to put like rancid meat inside her mouth. Yeah,
That was
Nah.
funny. I'm telling you,
Nah,
this is
nah,
okay.
nah.
Next question.
Right.
I know that was. I don't like that. This book is creepy.
Yeah.
It's like
Next question: did you gain a new perspective from reading the book?
Never go into a haunted house. Honestly, I don't know why people would like, especially with this thing where he like took a like kind of weird looking house and then like that had history with it, and then like decided to.
I think a new perspective for me is on that line with,
Yeah.
with the ghosts is that like I like the idea of even when there's like a benevolent ghost like Cam who is benevolent, they're still ghosts. They're still going to try and do messed up things.
Yeah,
Like
that's a new perspective.
Well, it's just like it's good to see like because usually in ghost stories it's either they're all evil or they're just like all good. But for this book, the ghosts were just described as ghosts. Like they do ghost things.
Casper?
Yeah, yeah, Casper. Cam like was looking out for Jade and was trying to warn her and was looking out for family that were rotting the food and trying to get them out. But even then, at the very end, after telling Jade to leave and Jade coming back, Cam warned her that if she came back, she wouldn't be able to let go of Jade. Cam wouldn't be able to let go of Jade and would want to keep her as her own. And that's just like she's not evil. She's just a ghost who wants to feel something, like feel alive, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like a cool idea.
What new perspective did I gain from this? I don't think I really gained any perspectives. Oh, maybe one perspective that I gained is I don't like horror books. I just remember I did a video where I was like test reading horror. That week was like the worst week of my life.
I remember that.
Like,
you had read some really scary books.
I read some scary Stephen King. Like I just couldn't sleep for, and like this I like horror that's like nuanced like this. Like there are, you know,
Plain Bad Heroines kind of.
I wouldn't call Plain Bad Heroines that nuanced. It was like okay, there was too much going on. That was definitely more like YA side. But this book is, I think it has like a story and a message. It just uses horror as a way to project that message. It's not like I wouldn't call it a horror book. I would actually call it like honestly contemporary or like.
Can you call it a thriller?
It wasn't very thrilling.
Well, I guess
it wasn't very thrilling. Thrillers are much more fast-paced too. I think in general, like I don't want to genreify it. I also don't want to put it too much in its own boat, but it was definitely like at its core like a story. Also, Mexican Gothic meets the astonishing color of After. I don't know about that. The astonishing color After is one of my favorite
You also really liked Mexican Gothic, so that's why I'm like wondering about.
I loved Mexican
because that's a horror book.
It is a horror book,
so,
but that's why it's nuanced. It's not strictly horror. It's like
creepy.
It's not even creepy. It's kind of just like a contemporary book almost, but it uses Gothic horror as a backdrop, a Dropbox as a backdrop to tell its story. Because like that book that talked about racism and colonialism. I mean, haunted house horror hauntings. There's very efficient way of getting that across.
That is true because of history around the house, especially, and
the what do you call when someone takes over your body? Exorcism.
It's possession.
Possession, that kind of thing. They're all like metaphors and symbolism. Yeah. So, yeah, I can see why like it is compared to Mexican Gothic, and there are a lot of stories like this because it's like very much used. But I don't know. I wouldn't say I gained any new perspectives. I think because this was like about like a Vietnamese family and like just Asian in general, and I think we could relate to a lot of the cultural things. So.
That's why I was thinking like I could, it's very relatable, not in terms of like pure like being like Vietnamese, but like that kind of generational moving to the US or like lack of knowing the language, those are things that are definitely relatable as expats,
Yeah, and in the end, do you feel like they got like who was served like in this book?
Like you got served.
You got served. Like, no. Like who won? Like did the white people win or like the
white people did not win.
Yeah,
the Alma and Thomas died, and then Alma lawyered up, and then there's no conflict there because they weren't erased. The
Mhm.
story wasn't erased, and that in itself is a victory for the well for
Mhm.
the Vietnamese family, for
Yeah.
Jade's family, and also Jade's really big victory is in telling the story of the other people in the house, of
Yeah.
the servants.
What was she trying to solve with that?
She's trying to get people to not come into the house.
She didn't do a very good job.
No, she didn't, because nobody believed her, and that
Yeah.
was an issue. But then after she failed necro but succeeded in telling the story and
Mhm.
getting the story out there, they destroyed the house where all that history happened, you know, and basically set free the spirits.
Yeah, I could see that part too, where I think it was hard to read because like everyone was like laughing at her and not believing in her.
That was, yeah.
And she was like the girl who cried like wolf or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was sad to see, but it's so like
It's, like,
that's
messed
true.
up. Yeah.
No, it's true, and it's like happens in history. History gets erased, and when people like speak up or whatever, they get laughed at or
because
belittled.
Yeah. So even with all the evidence that she collected, all the photos and all the history that she had looked into, nobody believed her. So
Yeah.
next question. Do you have the same motivations as the characters?
I don't know. I think because of Jade's anxiety, I think we very much have the same motivations. Like because of her anxiety, honestly, she just like honestly though, I am a little like with my anxiety, I don't know if it's more severe or whatever, but I would have gotten out of that house like as soon as I had
Even if your
experienced-
brother was in there?
me and my sister.
Your brother or your sister?
I would take them out with me. Like,
And what if they didn't want to leave? Like her sister didn't want to leave.
I don't care if they want to leave. I will
They
like
didn't wanna
take them
leave.
out, like
And knock them
arms.
off.
I will like just take them out, and I don't care what they say. And I would like that's how bad like my anxiety would be. But I do understand too. See, that's why I'm saying again, like I don't know how. You know, she definitely felt close to her dad, and I can understand that. So that's probably why she wanted to like get him out too. But damn, like I can't imagine. No, I think everything played out pretty well. The way she like handled stuff and the way her anxiety made her like prank her, like, you know, basically do this to like warn them and everything. And the way she did things, honestly, same motivation, same brain. We've called me anxiety brain,
That's
the
crazy.
hive mind.
Yeah, I would say. Well, I wanted to talk about like the actual hauntings that happened. Like her description of sleep paralysis is very accurate from what people say about it. Like from, you know, eyes opening and then you not being able to move and then you seeing different things happening. Sorry. Okay. Oh, no,
I hate it.
And like, can you imagine? Well, no, I don't want you to imagine, but like the idea of like
Can you imagine?
you having sleep paralysis and then you seeing things and then you saying it's not real, but then afterwards when you fully wake up and you see there's evidence of it actually being real, how freaking creepy that is, you know?
How did that answer the question? That did not answer the question. So
back to motivations, I probably would have. For me, I probably would have first wanted to investigate, kind of like she did.
Yeah.
But then I would have wanted to get out of there too.
Yeah, because.
So I'm really just like impressed with her drive to still try and salvage the situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean by that's why I want to get back to like motivations. Like that's crazy. I would not do that.
I know, but I think that's why I think I relate to her more than the sister, because I feel like Lily's motivations, like even after like experiencing all that, she still wants to like stay there for her dad. And I'm like, nah, bro, you gotta choose. You gotta like do that while also like trying to figure out this shit. Cause like I would not be able to sleep. I don't even know how she slept. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, sorry.
So, but like that reason I relate to Lily is because knowing me, I probably wouldn't have noticed anything.
Yeah, but if someone purposely pranked you in order for you to notice, you would have noticed.
I probably would have also like written it off with an explanation, kind of like the dad would have. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No. Oh my god. No. The way he was gaslighting.
Yeah. So much gaslighting happened. So much.
I was literally like, I can barely read this book anymore. The gaslighting makes me so angry. Yeah. Like at a certain point, I think maybe, I don't know, I'm on the opposite end of that where I'm too gullible, where if someone says something, I like believe, I hang on to their every word and like, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but then there are people like that who's just like, if your own daughter is telling you that like she's scared to like sleep in the house, like are you not going to listen to her?
I mean, he didn't.
He didn't.
No.
And I'm like, what? Like, I would literally be scared. No. Oh my God. If someone says that to me, like, if you were to say something to me, I would be scared too. And even more scared than you. Like, you would be like, hey, Alyx, I don't want to scare you, but this happened. And I'm like, bro, I can't sleep.
Yeah. And yeah.
It's really interesting.
What I really liked about this book was how, because of that kind of like scientific thought process of like parasites and all of the different, you know how in each of the chapters there's like a separation chapter, like a page, which is talking about like the house's feeling, what the house wants and what's going on with the house. One of them always sits with me, and it's like the recipe one, where it's a recipe and then talking about what the dad is doing for preparing. And the last line.
Oh, okay. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like those chapters.
Which ones? You didn't like those one-page ones?
No.
No, really?
There was like random, and I was confused.
They didn't click for you.
They didn't, because they kept changing. It was either about the house speaking, or it was the dad cooking.
Yeah, that dad cooking was the house watching the dad cook.
But who was it? The house, or was it Mary?
The house. The house. Remember, the house is the multiple entities that have lived in the house, and their souls are collectively a part of the house. It's not just Mary. It's not just.
God, all I smell are the green onions. Do you smell it?
I do, but like that scene after finishing the book and realizing that the dad was putting bugs into the cooking and putting like parasites inside of the cooking, that one page was super sinister afterwards, because just like it's a recipe and he's messing it up to infect his children. He's feeding his children parasites and bugs. And
what did you think of like the writing of those parts? Did you enjoy them?
I did. They were really well written, and they were really freaking creepy.
I know, they're so cryptic though.
I really like that kind of stuff.
I'm like, please just say in plain words.
No,
it was flowery language.
I really like those, but
like, I mean, I can appreciate them, but for me, because I tend to overthink and overcomplicate, it's really hard to
understand.
Yeah.
There's also like these pages here, and there's also the last scene where we start to where we realize that them eating all those meals and them like those moments where they were like happily like actually like laughing in the house was delusions, and the house playing and controlling them, making them eat raw meat, raw pork, making them eat grasshoppers.
Ew, so disgusting.
And then getting those parasites into their body to get more control. And it's just like, God, that's just so creepy and gross.
It is so creepy.
Oh God.
I don't know, this book is so creepy. Sorry, I'm just trying to look for that page because I really want to read it again to
reread it,
to understand. Yeah. Did you not write it down?
I don't mark anything in the book.
Damn. I really want to read it again because I didn't catch that part as much as you did.
But like that one scene, and then also the scene where there's a literal larva that she had to pick out of Lily's head.
Ew. Oh.
Yeah, that scene. Oh my God. Like some of these, like they just like when I was after finished reading it during the day, when I was like getting ready for bed, they would come back to me at night.
I think this is definitely the most buggy book that like I've ever read, and I feel like I didn't really think it would be that buggy. I didn't think it would be buggy at all, because there's actually no like mention of bugs anywhere in the
synopsis.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, I got some.
Yeah, no. Well, the wall with bugs leave their legs and feelers, but like it doesn't. It's not like it's going to be. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, that really stuck. That's like one of my, like I hated it while I was reading it, but I really enjoy it looking back because it made it such a visceral feeling and visceral description. And the descriptions of both ghosts, Marion and Cam. Like, I don't know if you want me to like recounting because it's going to bring back memories and make you have nightmares tonight. But like Marion's neck.
Oh yeah, no, I kind of breezed through.
Oh, did you not? Okay, I read word for word each of this. Kind of why I like horror.
Of course, I read word for word. But I breezed, like, it was kind of like I had read to page here,
Mhm.
and then I had to finish the books, and then I finished all of this in one go. So it was like
Oh,
all kind of blurred together, but also
see.
like, but kind of enjoyed that because then all the creepy parts, like I didn't just stop at like small parts, but
Yeah, because like every time that Marion showed up, like her neck was the main. Like, there's one scene I had to reread multiple. Yeah, okay, well, but it's like those scenes, and then when Cam showed up, and they were like,
okay, yeah.
no. Cam's side was like Jade kept going over like how she's extremely attracted to Cam,
Oh
and
yeah,
that
it
was like a really interesting kind of like
I would
weird.
that was a weird.
It was
part.
very weird.
It was like it happened most in the end too.
Yes, because like
I was
they
like-
like she was like falling in love with this ghost, and then
Yeah.
the cat, and then the ghost was like embracing her and bringing her close to her, and
Then I don't know. Just there was so many things going on.
yeah.
But,
So, but the reason, like another, sorry, I really like this book actually.
yeah.
There's another. So when I was in one of my classes for college, one of the, I think it was like Death and Dying or something like that. We had to watch a film about I think it was a Malaysian ghost story, I'm pretty sure. And it was about this this girl who had, you know, died, and her father and her husband was gone at war. I think yeah, it might have been actually lost for Vietnam. I can't remember, but the story was that when the husband came back home, he saw that his wife was fine and had their baby, and it was actually her ghost. And the whole time he was living a delusion where he was living with his, you know, happy family, but all in all he was alone in his, you know, like derelict house, and eating nothing, eating like rotten fruit, thinking it was real food, and being with his ghost bride, who was still beautiful in his eyes, but was a ghost.
Why? What was the point of it? Like, why did he start seeing her?
Because he didn't know that she had died when he was off at war. So when he came back, the ghost had stayed in the stayed in the real life to stay, because, you know, she wanted to still.
Talking about ghosts.
Okay.
I can't. No. Next.
Last question. Sorry, is
I'm really scared of doing this live show. I'm like, it's gonna bring up all the memories. Honestly, after we do this, like, I don't want to think about this book anymore.
I might be into horror a little bit more.
You can, boy, you can honestly go in there. You can read Mexican Gothic. You can take all my horror books with you, because I'm not dealing with the horror books anymore. I'm a little fucking chicken.
The last question is, what songs does this book make you think of? So I put a couple in the playlist related to related to kind of this. I can go in order if you want to. I put in a couple. The first song I put in was, we can go back and forth, Holler House, which is by Spencer, which is really I really like it because it kind of fits this idea of a haunted house and somebody yelling at you the whole time. That's kind of what the story, the song is about, and it just has a really good couple of vibes. I put a lot of songs that more were, you know, tied to the vibes of both generational trauma, the themes of like you know, dream state and like separation from reality, you know.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I put a song, it's called Haunted House. I actually, it was so funny that, because it's an artist I really like, but the whole album, I don't want to play it, but because I just want to pause it. Okay, wait, look. But do you see the
oh yeah,
cover art? It's like scary,
it's like a ghost.
creepy. Yeah, it's like really creepy.
Yeah.
But the what's it called? The song itself, it is kind of about a haunted house, but it's Haunted House by Holly Humberstone. Her voice is just so haunting too.
Oh yeah,
she kind of sounds like who I would envision Cam to be.
Nice.
Yeah.
I also have Arsonist Lullaby because of the ending with the whole thing going up in flames, and I really kind of wanted that. And Hosier's voice is really also haunting.
Oh yeah.
And I think it would fit this book.
You mean
really well.
Hosier? I put Family Line by Conan Gray, because I love that song, because it talks about how you can't escape your family. Yeah, and this, because I didn't want too on the nose of like haunted house and haunting, whatever.
Yeah, and too much horror.
But like this song especially, like when I I think one of the lyrics are, wait, let me just put this here and then let me see the lyrics. Yeah, look, oh God, I have my father's eyes, but my sister's when I cry. I can
Damn.
hide, but I can't hide from my family line.
Ooh.
So that one is so no, this song's so good.
That's
and
a
like,
really good choice.
and that's like generational trauma.
Yeah.
That's yeah, family trauma, all of that.
I put a song called "Blame It on the Kids" by Aviva, and basically
Oh, wait,
it's kind of the story. The story of the song is more around like rebels and being and not being basically a teenager, defying your parents and stuff. But what I really liked about it, it's
but it kind of relates because it's like the kids, like why are kids being adults, kind of.
Yeah, it's like when you think about parents like always thinking that a child is doing something wrong, or like when they're just going out at middle of the night or something like that, or like something happens, they're always going to blame it on the younger generation. And this one sounds like, don't blame it on the kids, like it's not their fault, they're just being kids. Who's the one that they're learning from?
That's kind of like the message in this book, though, because the two most aware people are like Florence and who are of the younger generation, like the adults aren't listening to them in the room. So I like that. That's a good one. Oh, look at that. What is that? What the heck is that? Oh,
it's a flare.
A slime ball.
It's a flare.
I put Typhoon by Young Giant. Let me look at the lyrics. I like the mood of it also because it's like yeah, I don't really know how to start. It's just the vibes.
You like the vibe too? Yeah, I have a couple here with the vibes. This one, two more?
Yeah.
One more is this one. So Black X White. It's by Arrested Youth, and it compares basically one line is here's the main chorus: black keys don't like the white keys won't play to the melody. It's relating to racism.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is that what the line is referred to?
What I believe it is, because white keys on a piano, black keys on a piano, and it's saying like black keys don't like the white keys, they don't want to play together. White keys won't play the melody, they won't play in unison, or they won't play a melody together. And that's why I thought this would be a good fit for the book, because it's steeped in so much racism. So, and it's just a good. It's about and. The message behind it, the subtlety with we talk about racism and relating to the music is something that I really liked too. And then last one, just because I liked it, this one, I Can Hold a Grudge Like Nobody's Business. I don't know if it's tied to her anxiety, but she's super spiteful and angry and like.
Why is she spiteful?
To her dad.
She wasn't spiteful. Her dad's being a bone.
Absolutely, she is rightfully spiteful and rightfully grudging, but she holds a grudge like nobody's business, and that's the name of that song. Because at the beginning, she was so angry she didn't want to talk to her dad at all, and every time that he opened his mouth, she had like a snarky comment towards him every single time.
I'm sorry, but like that's how I would be.
I know.
Like if you walked out of the family. And also, like the dad, it was such a complicated relationship between her and the dad because she knew what was happening more so than because he had talked to her before he left, so she was kind of like the last person to have seen him. So yeah, there was a lot of pressure on her, I think, as like the eldest, and it was
yeah.
All right.
I had a lot of songs in the playlist this time because.
This was an interesting one.
So much stuff to
I do feel like when we do our romance books, those are kind of like it's like hard to choose music for because
there's so much romance,
Yeah, so. It's like, but also just like the lovey-dovey ones, like there's no really music for that. Or if this one's a challenge. I feel like it's very interesting.
Also, like horror kind of fits into the genres that I like to listen to musically. So like I like that kind of darker tones. I like the more like off the road kind of stuff. So like. There's a lot of songs popped up for me for this one.
Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah, I quite enjoyed the book. I think maybe I was gonna say upon a second read, but I would never read it again. I think upon a closer look, and I think through talking today, I definitely have a bigger appreciation for this book. I think because in the beginning I was comparing it too much to Mexican Gothic or just in general like the themes that were not that clear.
I think you definitely for this one because when I was reading the book, there were sometimes where I had to go back a paragraph and reread something again.
I think I just went too fast. Yeah, I kind of like flipped so fast in the last few pages.
Because there's a lot of stuff that happened and was like that was explored that I liked, especially on the horror aspect. Like her descriptions of horror were really good.
Yeah, and you have to read between the lines for a lot of it because a lot of it, there's so many small details that if you didn't pick up in the beginning, like even the windowsill too. like the bugs there.
Bugs in the windowsill, and then having them come back later in a jar when we see that he was using the bugs from the windowsill in the food. Or
it just creeps me out. Like I hate things. Like I remember after we watched the like Let's Play Resident Evil, like I just couldn't sleep for weeks, just thinking about how like I was literally like sad about how life was like this.
It's just like he actively was trying to infect his
I
kids, and that's just really sinister.
It's a
and
hard
evil.
pill to swallow.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then, like
you can't get more sinister than that.
Like you also like you can't trust like food because of that. Like or you can't like you have now like I've like a little bit of trouble like
yeah right.
Like no, well like I wouldn't trust anybody else to make my food. Well, I don't do that anyway, but it's just like that heightened a little bit because like,
well even this one because it's like their own dad.
Yeah.
But also like the idea of like it's kind of reminds me of like Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
It's just like bad vibes. Yeah, it's kind of it's so creepy. But
I really like the book.
He really liked. I'm really happy. That's really. I know you didn't really have many expectations. Like I kind of just threw this book on you. Like I was just like read it. Yeah, but I'm excited. I remember when it was first pitched to me, and I got so excited because I don't know, like we talked about, Asian horror is like the scariest.
Asian horror is the scariest.
Yeah.
Nobody can even get close.
Yeah, that's why I feel like most of the other. I mean, the horror books that I read for that episode, that video, they were not. They were like American. Like it takes place in America.
Yeah, Stephen King stuff.
Yeah. So it wasn't like that scary. I was thinking it was dark. Oh, it's dark now. It's pretty dark now. But yeah, I'm glad that you liked horror. Would you read horror books again for? I feel like this. Okay, you know what? I'm surprised. I'm a mood reader, so I was actually surprised that I could get through this book, like now, because I usually don't read horror. I can't read horror like until it's like Halloween or like fall season. But I'm very surprised that I was able to read it. Like
you also said that you read most of it in one sitting too. That's also surprising for you because usually you take like a couple minutes and then you need to stop and
Yeah, I don't know. It was very surprising for reading this book and like how I was able. I think this would be a great book to read in the fall during Halloween. Like this is one of those recommendations where it's like so creepy.
True, definitely. I would recommend it for Halloween, but also like, cause when you think Western horror, everybody thinks that around fall or winter or around that season. This is like dead set in a tropical place. So
that's a good point.
This is like heat. This is suffocation. This is like oppressive feeling, and for me, that's worse because I like the cold. And this kind of heat where you can't run away from it. There's no.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, that's why I could really feel it when her descriptions of her sweating all the time and like her not being able to breathe with the window, like needing to get that window open.
And also because of her anxiety and just like that heightens like how hot everything is and. That's crazy. Like I didn't really pick up on that. That's a good point though. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it for this book. We're taking a break for the month of April, so there is no book right now. But we're gonna be back in May with a really cool partnership. So I'm excited. I think we're gonna be announcing that this month. So I'm really excited. It's gonna be a different genre. Definitely not horror. I think we're gonna be reading horror books for a while.
What if I choose another horror book?
Please don't. That's also when you were about to choose Thistlefoot, I was literally like, I don't want to read horror. I really do not want to read. Like the only reason I would dare to choose this because it had like it was like literally. It's not a book. It's not a horror book. It's a book about the diaspora and like Vietnamese intergenerational trauma. It's not like a horror book. It just uses horror, like I said. So it's the only reason why I chose it.
All right, fine.
All right. But yes, thanks for coming. We will see everyone in the next live show.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much.